Hey everybody, this week's episode is kind of different. We're not doing a full episode because it's the holidays, but we're doing a compilation to show you our favorite parts of the episode so far. Musicians React. So we were just talking about how you met James Taylor. You were about 22. He had just come back from recording his Apple record.
Yeah.
And you were rehearsing?
I was in a local band called Wolfgang that was actually named Wolfgang because Bill Graham was our manager, and Bill Graham's real name is Wolfgang. We had a house up on Wheatland out in, I don't know what, the Sunland area, band house, so those days of having a band house. And we rehearsed every day, and our drummer had a friend named John Fishbeck who owned Crystal Recording Studios in LA, who engineered and produced all of Stevie Wonder's early records in the studio there. And he would come and hang out at our rehearsals, and one day he brought a friend of his who had just gotten back from England, and it turned out to be James. And he hung out with us for a couple of days, and he played us his songs, and we're going, fucking genius. This guy's like, give me a break. But it's one thing when you get an opportunity. It's another thing getting the opportunity and having the goods.
Yes.
And I was fortunate that. And I had never played like singer-songwriter stuff. I was into Hendrix and Zeppelin. All that, and our band was like a kick-ass rock and roll band, and all of a sudden you're playing Fire and Rain and things like this.
Was that an adjustment?
Yeah. The hardest adjustment, I'll tell you, and I don't want to hog this whole thing, but
that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all just leaned in.
Go on. The hardest adjustment for me, actually, was the uniqueness of James Taylor's guitar style.
Yeah.
Because almost every guy I ever worked with, from Clint Black to Garth Brooks, you name these guys, all they want to do is play James Taylor songs and show you that they're working on this style.
Yeah.
Because James has a thumb that's always playing bass.
Yeah.
And he's got all these internal voicings, and I sat there with him
Did that
going,
make it hard for you to
well,
come
I had
in
to
and
figure out what the hell I'm doing there.
Yeah.
Because he's already playing bass.
Right.
So I would either ape what he's playing
Yeah.
or figure out how to weave around it, which ended up creating for me a more melodic style of playing. And so it was really, I really had to kind of justify why the hell I was even there.
That's so interesting. He has a signature call and response thing. He has like this identity in terms of melody and composition, which I feel like is rare.
That's a really good point. A lot of producers have like soundscape identities.
Yeah.
You hear a timbre and you're like, that's Skrillex. You hear Phineas. You hear a Billie Eilish tune. You're like, that's that sub bass Phineas production.
But he also has like that fun, playful, lyrical side to him. I'm in a robe, drip, drip.
Yeah.
If you're hungry, I got fillets.
I
Like
like
that's, I mean, so
I
many.
got the haze you want to smoke.
Of
It's
course.
it's brilliant.
I got the haze.
There's so many like lyrical moments, like
Yeah.
Julio grab the stretch.
Yes, I was just gonna say that.
Get the stretch.
Yeah,
Poor Julio. Can we just have a moment for Julio, please? Is Julio work for you? Why are you is he just a friend that you're ordering around? What if in every song you're like, Ryan, get my luggage? That wouldn't be cool.
Why does Anderson .Paak have a dot in his name?
Is it a
know
file?
that he did.
File, like .jpeg.
Anderson
.Paak.
.Paak.
I don't know.
Okay, here's what we got here. The dot stands for detail. I spent a lot of time on working on my craft, and after I came out of my little incubation, I promised that I would pay attention to detail. And on top of that, I want to make sure that dot is always there to remind me and to remind others.
I love him. I don't know him, but I love him.
And also, AndersonPaak.com was taken, so I needed something.
.Paak.
I wonder if he has Anderson .Paak.
You gotta Google it.
There's like this incredible story about this tune where apparently like they were trying to find him to play bass on this, and he was like passed out drunk and recorded the whole thing in one take on his back.
Yeah.
That's what is on this track.
That's what's on the record. Yeah.
Is that true?
I saw it in a documentary.
It's as true as anything else we've said so far today.
Yeah. He played everything with one finger. So most people play bass with two fingers like this. And he was an upright bass player, a jazz guy. So he played and if you watch upright bass players, because the instruments at a little bit of an angle, they always play like that. So he always played with one finger pointing down that way. And if you listen to like the bass line, because there are a lot of 16th note subdivisions, the boom, there's like this little shortness in some of the articulations as he's changing strings that you literally can't get any other way.
Two fingers.
Like if you're playing with two fingers, you hit it right on, and you're saying there's a little bit of a pause because he's using the same finger.
Exactly. So if you play like, right, you can hear it. But if I play it with two fingers,
now you're on the fucking grid. But where I would say I identify as a Taylor Swift fan is in her consistent, I guess the only word for it is just leadership in the industry. I think of her as a brilliant business person, like from pulling her catalog off of Spotify to re-recording it when it gets sold for however many hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
She's like, I just like that she kind of has this, I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do, and I'm going to make it work for me. And it comes with this, that's where I would say
She's a trailblazer.
Yeah, she's a trailblazer.
Yeah.
She's an innovator.
Oh, you were throwing pebbles in my daddy's
Much more
Now
high-
this hurts. Now it hurts. Why does it hurt now?
Begging you, please don't go. And I said, Romeo, take me somewhere we can be alone. I'll be waiting.
Tambourine. There wasn't a tambourine.
Do is run, you'll be the prince.
If it were me,
I'll be the princess. It's
I'd be going double time.
I think
yeah.
this is the shit.
Yes,
This is better, man.
nailed it.
Man.
C-Rock.
She crushed it.
I mean, she's spent years singing that song to stadiums and arenas of people. You know, there's probably so much power behind that she's bringing to this recording that, you know, wouldn't have existed on the first one.
Do you know which other song today, like, where the primary lyric is "Badia"?
Isn't it like a Doja Cat song? Megan Thee Stallion?
Thee Stallion. Body, yaddy, 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 yaddy. Yeah.
Yeah. But she's talking about her body.
She's talking about her body.
Oh.
Sorry, thank you for the clarification.
Not body yaddy.
No,
It's like body.
yaddy, but it sounds exactly the same. No, if you just change the meaning of it.
Interesting. Do you have any recommendations for headphones that work well for listening to music?
It's this company called Grado headphones, and they make this headphone. It's called like the Model 300, something like that. I love listening to it because it's an open back, so therefore it's not like enclosing, but it's like there. And everything just sounds like the way it should, and it's just really clear.
For studio, Beyerdynamic DT770s. Those are my favorite.
I use the Sennheiser HD 280s, which I think they're like $100 or maybe $150. Tim, I want to know what headphones you use.
280s, baby. I'm right
HD
with you.
280s?
That's my favorite headphone.
Oh, shit!
Wow.
Have you guys heard the original sample? Do you know the original sample?
No.
Cola Bottle Baby.
Wow, it's the whole thing.
It's the whole
It's the whole song.
Edwin Bird song.
It's the whole thing. That's
Edwin.
Crazy.
They didn't, even the bass,
They
that
did-
classic
Wow, Edwin. I hope he got a Grammy.
AKA Daft Punk.
My question is about Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger. I was wondering if you were familiar with the prominent use of Edwin Bird's songs Cola Bottle Baby.
Wow.
And whether you had any insight or opinions around sampling. Do you draw a line between transformative use and stealing? And where does that lie for you?
let's get this guy on the show. What are we doing here? This guy knows more than we do.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
That's a really good question. Yeah.
Well, I will say my visceral reaction again when I heard that first sample the first time, I was like, "Oh, they didn't do shit to that sample." Like,
but they really did upon the close listen, right?
Yes.
Well, hang on. Yeah, I think also though. I mean, at the foundation of that question, at least to me, is like, well, did you credit and pay the person whose art you're recontextualizing? And if the answer is yes, and it was consensual, then it's like, if there was permission granted, then I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Also, I think it's
not
like
theft.
It's like a matter of taste. It's like, would we have heard that sample again later? Like, probably not. Like, they did the work of like looking through and finding it and kind of finding and feeling that magic and then kind of bringing it to light. So I'm not sure. I don't know if I personally would draw like a hard line with how much you manipulate or build on it. I think that's like there's some artistry in the choice.
I completely agree. And I think largely remix culture at this point is unavoidable and just on track to happen. It's already happening, right? Where everybody's taking samples of this and taking samples of that and chopping it up and fair use this, and now it's on YouTube and advertisers can claim it. But there's like system. I don't necessarily think the systems and laws around sampling are set up to deal with the pace of culture right now. I think culture has outpaced legislation when it comes to sampling.
Not even sampling, all music. I mean, think about like all of these lawsuits about, the Robin Thicke blurred lines. Like, okay, music used to be like, okay, it's just the only thing you can copyright is lyrics and melodies. So like, right? That used to be black and white.
Yeah, that can't be black
now
and
it's not. It's not that. Now it's like, no pun intended, it's a blurred line. The whole song is tension, right? Like it's unresolved. Yeah. It's unresolved, the 4 to the 5, right?
Yeah.
You're just waiting.
For a minute. How hard must it have been for the band to not get to the chorus and be like, okay, so, all right, so it goes to the C for the chorus, right? Well, thunder always happens when it's raining. There's only flame. Just like one. Let's go home for the
like
chorus.
Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young.
Become yourself.
But instead, they chose to stay in the tension even for the chorus.
So for me, I actually didn't know the low harmony went to that one note on raining. I thought it went to a different note.
What is it?
Thunder always happens when it's raining. So that low one is thunder always happens when it's rain. The raining note, the low note, is a different note that I always used to hear that he's doing. And I was like,
it goes down
and
low,
I thought it was a different note on the rain.
You're absolutely
and I thought
right.
It was raining, but it's raining.
My whole life I said raining, but it's
me
raining.
too. But that's why when you hear cover bands sometimes do stuff, it's like you haven't got the right. That's why, but I don't know why.
Details, people. Details.
In the 1977 album version of Fleetwood Mac's Dreams, I love the lead guitar part. How do you think they created that amazing sound? I love being a patron. Bye.
Oh, what a sweet Yum. I love you, Yum.
Oh, what a guy. Yum. First of all, thank you, Yum. You're the best. We love you so much. We're so grateful for your membership and patronage over the years. And thank you for this question. I think we got to let the guitar player speak about this.
It's a great question. There's two ways to create that swelly effect. I mean, when it comes in, it almost sounds like a pedal steel because it's like multiple notes moving. But Lindsey Buckingham is such an insane guitar player. You can do it with a volume pedal. I wonder if he didn't just do it with his hands. You can swell with using the volume knob on your guitar. So you can go. You can do that type of thing.
Wow, that's really close.
So if you put a bunch of reverb on the guitar, and then you can create those kind of swelly effects. But a lot of people use a volume pedal to do that.
It's sort of like 80s VHS.
Yes.
Video game music.
Totally.
It's totally dystopian future 80s
Yes. Yeah.
cinematic Blade Runner-y kind of shit.
that Take on Me isn't actually like, it's pretty modern sounding.
Yes, the blinding lights is more lo-fi than the thing that it's trying to be.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah,
Yes.
it's like that's what makes you know it's modern. Is
'Cause
you're
they
like
went too far.
They went too far. I don't mean like they went too far. They screwed up. I mean it's cool. It's its own new sound.
It's just less hi-fi than in the 80s. They were playing with
They were going
the
hi-fi.
most advanced technology. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas now everybody will run it through RC20 and give it some tape hiss
Right.
and roll off some of the highs to make it sound warmer, and you make it feel a little bit grind
Grittier.
up and
Yeah.
gritty.
It's same thing with the Wolf compressor or something. If you just go like all the way, you're like, oh, this is like low. This is retro. The Wolf compressor is an audio plugin created by Goodhertz and Jack Stratton of Wolfpack, and it is a tool you can use when recording music to make things sound vibey and cool and funky.
When you talk about the capacity that music has to affect you, dynamics is a huge lever
100%.
that's just not present in 95% of the music that we listen to nowadays. So when you actually hear music that's dynamic, like when you listen to like a classical, like a concerto or something like that, and you sit down and you turn up, a nice hi-fi system, it has an emotional effect on you, because when it gets loud, you feel like you're being taken by it. You know what I mean?
I was just gonna say, I mean, that's a little bit the magic that I feel like we're losing today. And that energy and that magic is I don't know, it's like what makes music so beautiful, and to have that captured on a record with the dynamics and with the interplay of all the people. I memean, it's sad that feels like we're a little bit losing
that resonates.
Right? So we hear this over and over and over, and this just becomes the thing that we expect. And then
Yeah.
That felt so good.
Yeah.
It's something that we're losing today, which is really a bummer. And especially like with Max Martin, I mean, there's so many amazing songs that he produced and wrote in the 90s where the bridges are like insane.
They're amazing.
Like Britney Spears and NSYNC, like those bridges are crazy, and it's sad that we're kind of losing that today. I don't know if it's because songs are getting shorter because of streaming or whatnot, or we're just dumbing it down and we're just getting these like 3 and 4 chord songs that are just on repeat. So yeah, that feels so awesome when it goes to the 2. I just wish it happened more. I wish there was more.
It doesn't
variety.
have to be that. I agree with you that that's happening, but it's like, why? What about, like, I do not believe that the consumer, if you will, is demanding that. Well, people are like, well, they're not going to listen to it. It's like, well, they fucking listen to all these hits, and these are all still hits.
You ever see I think like Thelonious Monk, he like wrote these like notes and they became really famous. One of the things he wrote was like the bridge is written to make the chorus sound better.
Yes.
It's like you want to depart from that, so when you come back to it, you have like, oh, like it's like so impactful.
In swing music, the kick drum's an accenting tool. The time is in the ride cymbal. Since this is coming directly from jazz music, we now, because people like make beats and stuff, and music has changed a lot, people lock into the kick drum. That's like the fundamental low tone, but that's not what music was like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
People would primarily lock into like the quarter note and the cymbal interaction, but really the quarter note, that was like the low end that was keeping the time.
Right. But a lot of it, the kick drum, the tuning was higher than the bass.
Right.
So the bass had the space of, and that's why people danced.
Yeah.
Was because of the bass, not because of the kick drum. And
Yeah.
only in the fidelity of everything was like AM radio. There was you weren't getting full fidelity, so the bass, you could even hear, that's not, like you play a low E now through any modern amp and you get even more, 40 hertz, 30 hertz, where that stuff, everything's squeezed and it bops. It kind of makes you, it does what the kick drum would do.
Yeah, when you
now.
think about a band in the 20s and what's going to project in a club without, amplification, it's like the bass is it. That's what people are going to feel and move to.
And it's also interesting, I mean, this is like probably an aside, but upright basses were set up really differently at that point in history than they are now, because people had to set up the action super high so they can project high volume.
Yeah. Right.
And now most jazz bass players, they play through amps on gigs still. It's not totally acoustic. That's not always true. And there's some people who are like, no, man, you got to set up your action high and get your projection happy. I don't really play upright bass, so I don't do any of that stuff. But there are a lot of cats who play with like lower action and play through amps, but that was like, it didn't exist at the time. So it was
Even
just different.
Jamerson played with higher action than is the modern equivalent.
Yeah. Like if you just play 16th notes on the bass, right? Like
Sounds like punk rock.
sounds like punk rock, or
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But if you mute a little bit with your left hand,
This is using.
Now
if
you sound
you're-
like a
if
funk
you're
band.
fretting here, right? Then you're going to mute, so it's control of
and
your
so
left
I'm
hand.
controlling the articulation of the note with my left hand and changing the note length just a little bit. So instead of always bringing out, it feels like a little shorter and tighter, and it's easier to kind of position the syncopations where I want them. Like as the string wobbles really wide when you're going.
Very flea.
It's a little harder to play, you know, it's like, it's flat, it's big, takes up all this space, right? But if you go,
Ooh, that's so funky.
and then you leave it to the end of the phrase to let it open up. Like you want that awareness of it, not just like as a steadfast rule of like funk is short and rock is long. It's all about like developing a constant like awareness of your releases over time for specific music.
When you put harmony and make it a scene change, it gives your mind the permission to go somewhere differently. When we went to that bridge, I saw poppy fields. I just literally saw like the sky open. We were in the poppy fields rolling around. Back. You know?
Yeah.
And this song is full of hooks. Just everywhere there's a hook.
What are the hooks?
Okay. Ba 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 ba, and then da 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 da, and then of course like the skate. And
Now wait a minute, hang on a second. I'm just gonna point out. You know what I'm gonna say? You're singing all the instrumentation and none of the melodic parts.
Very
Except
true.
for skate.
Except for skate, which is basically a horn part.
Yeah, which is the whole part. Yeah.
The hook in the shit that stands out to me is the instrumental players. It's the rhythm section and the arrangers writing these melodies. Not that Bruno isn't a great melodist and songwriter, but I actually don't remember. If you ask me, like, sing the verse of the melody,
I can't sing it.
I can't either. No, no,
Yeah, I mean,
no.
I just hear. That's it.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
It's a great point that the strongest parts of this song are not the melody.
Not the melody.
Like, that's a good chorus melody, but nobody's gonna be walking around the house singing that in 30 years.
No.
You know what I mean? It does what it's supposed to do. It lifts the song, but the special thing about this song is not really the melody.
And I just think that like Bruno Anderson loved music so much that this sounds like it was a birth out of a jam. And then it's like, okay, let's put this over this later.
Yeah.
You know?
It sounds like they made the track first.
Yes, I agree.
And then it sounds like they had the skate, and then it sounds like, oh, let's just use that word, skate. What if the song is about
skate? I can even see them saying like skate.
Yeah,
I can hear a little hit there. Yeah.
Skate.
I think really great music tends to work on two levels. You know what I mean? Where you can appreciate it like the Beatles. It's right. It's like it's somehow so simple and so complicated at the same time, where it's engaging. Like the more you know about how it's working, the more interesting it is, but it works just to listen and know nothing about it.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great point, that you can just sit back and enjoy the ride, or you can like read along and it's still
genius.
It's genius. Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody else is doing harmony like this around today. That's reached this level of acclaim and popularity.
Yeah, not on the radio.
Not on the
that's
radio.
for sure.
I wonder how they actually recorded that, right?
I can call Morris. I got Morris's haze in my phone. I can call him.
Hey, Jason,
Wait, for reals?
For reals.
You know Morris?
Well, can I tell the story?
Yeah.
So I was singing, I'd been here for 2 years and I moved over here and thought, I'm going to put a band together. I had a 10-piece band and very quickly found out that doing gigs where no one knows you with a 10-piece band and you can't pay anybody is not the thing to do. So Morris I'm opening for the girl that he's produced, but I don't know who the girl is. I'm just there doing my thing with my 10-piece and I'm kind of a bit jaded. I've been here 2 years and it's meeting so many people going, you're so good, give me a card, you know. Hear nothing. So he comes up to me and I did Round and Round, the Prince song. And he's like, who are you? And I go, Danny Olga Hark, before I was married. And he goes, why don't I know you? And I'm like, I don't know.
Did you know who he was at the
No.
time?
And he goes, I played on that song. And I went in my head, yeah, right. You know, I was like, bullshit. Oh, sorry. And so he gave me a blue piece of card and he got a texter, Sharpie, and wrote down his name and number. So the next day I'm in my corporate wedding band gig that I was doing when I first came here to make some cash, and I'm singing, man, I feel like a woman, and my phone is open and he's ringing me. And I'm like, I can't answer this right now. No, not while this song's on. So I waited, and then he called me and we spoke, and he said, we're having a jam on Tuesday and it's at Prince's house, and I'd love it if you want to come. And I'm like, sure, being really cool. Hang up. And then he says, do you have a desk tape of you round and round of your version? I said, yes. So I sent him the desk tape, spent the next 2 days, couldn't tell anybody I was going to his house, spent the next 2 days learning all the new Prince songs that I wasn't really, you know, the later records that I hadn't wrapped my head around, just trying to learn wherever I could. Then go to his house, go there with my husband, get to the estate, and I'm thinking, as soon as I say my name, they're going to, you're not on the list. And I go, Danny Holger Ha. And they're like, oh, come through. And the gate goes up, and I'm like, oh, babe, we're going in. And we get to the door, and there's a guy at the front with a mic and a suit on. He's like, you here for the party? I'm like, uh-huh. And we walk into his house. This is when he lived in LA. And you can hear the music's coming from the basement downstairs. We walk past this like lounge room, and there's the piano from Purple Rain, like sitting there, and I'm like, oh my God. And then I look out, and there's a pool, and coming out of the pool is this ice sculpture of the Prince symbol with purple lights coming off it and all this fog. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is why I moved to America, just to see this, you know. Walk down, and on either side of the walkway, there's these big glass cabinets, and there's the bike from Purple Rain. And I'm having a very quiet coronary. Yeah. And we walk in, and there's 30 people dancing, and there's like full-on sound system, and the whole band are all there. Maceo Parker, they're all there. His singers are in thrones, the girls all dressed up. I was told it was a jam. They're all dressed up for this party. And for 4 hours straight, he played all these different songs. There was no alcohol. We all got orange juice and soda water. So it's 4 a.m. The jam is kind of slowing down, and all the stars are leaving. There's like 7 of us left. And there's me, my husband, the band, and Anthony Michael Hall, the guy from Weird Science. So then we're dancing, and then my husband looks at me and he's like, giving me the look like that. I'm like, what's going on? And Prince comes around and hands me the microphone. And his backing singer comes down, and we're singing this. I don't remember the song because I'm still in shock, but it was an Earth, Wind and Fire tune, and her and I are just singing together. And my husband said that Prince went around and recorded me. So I'm singing with her, and that's great. And then it all finishes. Then we all go upstairs. He goes upstairs somewhere else. The thing finishes, and his chef is making dessert for everybody. So then we're walking out to leave the party, and he comes down, and he's sat in pajamas with heels. Had a heel on, and he walks past, and what do you say? Like, you're really good? You know, he knows that. And I just went, thank you so much. And he was like, you're very welcome. And we walked out, and I'm standing in the front of his house with Anthony Michael Hall again. And Anthony Michael Hall goes, how surreal was that? And I went, you know what's surreal? That you're saying that to me. You know, and he was, oh, thank you. Because no one recognised him, but I did. So then I get into the car, and I get home, and then I get another call saying, listen, he wants 3 singers, and we're going to have another jam. And I'm going to let you know when it's going to be. But he wants to add a singer to his next tour, which was the 21 Nights, you know, the big one they did in LA. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'll let you know when the jam's going to be. In that time, his drummer and bass player, who are married, went back to Tennessee. And the big storm happened in Tennessee, and they couldn't get back to LA. So the jam never happened, and I never got to do it. So it's a letdown. Sorry. But he did hear my version of Round and Round, and he did, like, I had cake at his house.
Wait a minute. That story was not a letdown at all.
Oh, that was we were all waiting for and then and
then I toured with him for 15 years.
And then I went to the concert, and I was like, oh, there's the 3rd singer.
That's post-chorus riff.
All the horn lines on this are so good.
That is like fucking iconic horn line.
Oh yeah.
All of those things are from this song.
Yeah, and that line is so cool too because it's doubled by the bass, so it makes it a riff. But the piano, I can't remember. Does he play it on clav or does he play through it?
Wait, are the horns doubling the bass for that part?
Yeah, the bass goes at that part. There's so many clav parts. I don't know everything that he's doing, but the main one doesn't double it. So it's just the bass and the horns.
It's the bass and the horns doing the same thing.
Yeah, but it makes it feel like a riff and like a counter line at the same time, which is what's so cool about it.
I remember, well, this wasn't with Pockets, this was with Pomplamoose, but it was Jamiroquai Bee Gees. We did a mashup of Jamiroquai Bee Gees, and Rob was on drums, Rob Humphreys. I think Rob's time is so fucking unique and very cool.
Somebody help me. Somebody help me, yeah.
I remember Ben Rose played the same exact groove And it sounded like a different song and a different drum part. Not better or worse, but it literally sounded like a different song. There's so much in how not just how the drummer feels time, that is completely separate from the grid and often better if there's no grid, but how the band feels time together.
Yeah.
Were you sometimes referencing, did you have these in your head, these tracks in your head? Were you thinking about McCartney and his bass playing and taking bits and pieces from that? How did you let it influence your work?
Yeah, your brain kind of becomes like a Rolodex, of parts, and you kind of just tuck things away, and you might do a song, be working on a song, and you go, God, it sounds kind of like a Beatles type thing. Because I get people that always say, give us like a kind of a McCartney kind of thing. I go, here's his number. Just go, you'll be much happier.
What's his number?
I'll give it to you.
Airdrop that contact.
I've always just been, at the end of the day, I'm fanboy. So when I hear all these people, I don't feel competition with them. I'd rather just dig them. And just go, if there's an element of that I can add to something. But when I hear him play, I'm not a pick player. I didn't come from guitar. And he was a guitarist that ended up by default playing bass. And so he plays in a very different way. And I remember hearing an interview with him where he talked about, with the Hofner, he when he went back to Hofner after Rickenbacker and all that, he had to remember that the lighter you play one, the better it sounds, because it'll compress on you really bad. Because it's a crappy instrument.
Right.
They're really cute, but it's really kind of a junky instrument. But he made it into this world-class instrument. But I've never heard anybody play a Hofner that sounds as good as a McCartney.
These are 4 kids that went to school together in North England. Do you know what I mean? It's like this is not Abe Laboriel. This is not like, let's get the best musicians. It's like, these are 4 kids that went to school together that said, okay, you play this, wait, no, you play this, and I'll play this. You play this, and like you hear their intention through everything that they play. And even like when Paul's playing drums, like even when he's not like, I mean, he's a great drummer, but even like when he's not like nailing it like the way a session drummer would nail something, it's way cooler because you hear the charm and the personality and the character. And like, I feel like that's why these records will last forever, is because it's just like,
There's love
it's so
in something,
human.
and it really is captured in the music.
There's that famous old quote, too, where I think John Lennon was being interviewed, and they said, is Ringo like the greatest drummer in the world? And he goes, he's not even the best drummer in the Beatles.
It had that Alanis Morissette confidence.
I was just about to say that. It's like Gen Z Alanis vibes.
Does Gen Z... Did they know about Jagged Little Pill?
I don't think so.
I was introduced to her. A friend who worked at a label played Driver's License, which is a good song. Heartbreak, 17-year-old heartbreak song.
Lydian pre-chorus.
Yeah, Lydian pre-chorus. Okay, you're doing that. That's effective. And this, to me, sounds like growth from that, but it kind of sounds like she's still talking about the same guy.
I agree. I also think like I'm the opposite of the audience for this lyrically. Like, I feel like once you pay for your own health insurance, you're just like, I don't fucking give a shit about relationships. Like, when I listen to this music, it reminds me of the time I went to go see my girlfriend play with the Jonas Brothers at the Hollywood Bowl alone.
Flex.
And I was like, I should not. Like, I stand out. Like, I had people come up to me and be like, what are you doing here? That's how I feel like when I listen to the song, kind of, It's just like,
did someone really come up to you and say
it
that?
seriously happened. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing?
Wait, where were you standing?
I was just like standing around getting alcohol because I was like
backstage or something?
No, I went. No, I was out in the house to watch the show, like getting alcohol because I wasn't gonna watch the show sober.
Right? No, yeah, of course not.
Not a dig, but I just like I can't be in.
You can't be sober.
I can't be. I just can't be sober.
Let's talk Billie Eilish. The song is called Lost Cause. Mario, you were a fan about
I'm
Billie?
a fan. I don't know what her fandom name is, but I'm a fan.
Oh, it's like Little Monsters or some shit, like Lady Gaga. Yeah, what are you if you're
I'm an eyelash.
You're an
Billie's eyelash.
I love the very top when she goes the first word and cuts out.
Summer's in the...
And when singers sing it coming at the wrong point?
Yes.
I'm sure we've been there and done gigs and like, oh, not yet. And I'm wondering if she kind of just did that and he's like, let's just keep it.
Yeah, but the volume's so much lower.
I know. That's what's great. Like she was testing the mic.
Yeah. When her voice actually comes in, it feels so good because that first line.
Yeah. Summer's in the...
you're like, oh, they mixed the vocals really low. But then
Right now.
you're like, oh shit, she's fucking inside my head.
But she might have gone, say I was singing this song, track's ready to go, and I go, something's in it. Like I practice the note, and then I go onto the track, and she might have just done that too, and they've kept it in.
You're absolutely right. That I'm sure
Like,
that's what happened.
something. Okay, let's go. Do you know what I mean?
Every time.
Yeah.
Before
know.
I do a take.
Always.
Something's in the. Something's in the.
Oh, that's it.
It's yeah. Oh my gosh. Because you're like, okay. Am I in tune?
Yeah, am I in tune? I've got how do I sound in the room with my ear? You know.
Of course.
They love those little moments. They just make it feel interesting and unique and raw and fun. It sounds like they're recording together in their
Yes,
basement.
and they're having fun. And the breath she does before, I think it's I Sent You Flowers. Like that little nuance, I love
Yeah.
too. These little things are just so you don't
Yeah.
realize how important
Full
they are to make the track.
very
better. It's
human
so good.
details.
Yeah,
Yes.
very.
How the fuck did they film that?
I don't know.
A really steady drone.
No, I mean the snake.
Oh god, no. Well, I think it's probably CGI.
You think
for part
so?
of it.
Oh, it looked real.
It looked real to me. 'Cause
Yeah.
It was getting tighter, but it has to be CGI, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, like when it's like around her neck and her stomach, probably.
Neck in her stomach, and then the drone just pulls out and there's no crew around her. There's no safety. There's no animal trainer. There's nobody around for a fucking mile.
There's no animal trainer.
Well, I'm just saying. That's why I'm like, how do they film? Like, she can't be sitting there with
a good point. That's a
with
good
a
point.
python wrapped around
It
her
might
neck.
be her pet that she's trained.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It might be
Her
what?
pet that she's trained. Some people have
Exactly.
pet snakes.
Oh. Her
I was just
pet.
her pet.
Oh,
Sorry,
oh.
her pet.
Her pit. What did she train her pit to do?
Exactly.
Yeah, the last time I went into the canyon with my python, things did not end well.
Dot, dot, dot.
When they were recording the drums, they noticed, God, when you record the kick and the snare with the cymbals, just with the amount of separation that they had, it just created this washy thing. The compression didn't really sound good on the cymbals. So they had Ringo record a lot of the parts without cymbals. And then he overdubbed hi-hat.
And fills.
And fills.
You hear the fills are doubled.
So imagine you're trying to be groovy and you can't play hi-hat.
Whoa, that's amazing.
And then you overdub hats afterwards. Like, it's going to fuck with your groove a little bit.
Also,
cool.
close miking.
Maybe we should all be doing
they,
that.
They kind of,
It is cool. It's
they
really
kind
cool.
of pioneered close miking drums.
They absolutely did.
Like there was a manual that said like you're only allowed to mic drums from this far away because these mics are expensive.
The
And
recorded
engineers
music manual?
wore white lab coats and they had to follow the rules and wear ties. And the Beatles had the authority because they were doing so well to be like,
No.
fuck that, put the mic
Yeah.
right up against the drum.
Something that stood out to me. Did you hear the chorus on the guitar?
You know what that is?
What is it?
I don't think that's chorus.
It's not chorus. What is it? It's some kind of modulation effect.
That's the spinny speaker that I have in my studio. That's a Leslie.
That's a Leslie Model 16.
That's a Leslie. Yeah.
Can we hear it? That.
Yeah. That's a Leslie.
That's
yeah.
a Leslie. What a Leslie does,
Beatles.
it pitch modulates the device, right? Because the cones
Yeah.
are coming at you and then moving away from
Right.
you.
It's like a mini Doppler.
It's a mini Doppler
Yeah.
effect.
Oh, mini Doppler.
So you're hearing a little bit higher frequency, a little bit lower frequency, which is
Yeah.
exactly what a chorus is doing.
Right.
What's strange about the way the Beatles credit their songs?
John and Paul.
Yeah.
Everything 50-50.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if every song Paul was like, actually, I think I wrote more of the lyrics. So actually, would you mind taking 25% instead of 50?
But like, are the George tunes just credited as George?
Yeah.
Should they have credited everyone? Is that the question?
Well, I just think it's an interesting choice. There's a camaraderie that I think you can achieve by being like, look, fuck it. We're not,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
not why we're doing it. We're not doing it for 8% of this and 6% of that. We're doing it because we want to fucking write great music together.
I'm sort of surprised that not everyone is cut in on it. If you've learned anything from music history of like all the problems with relationships that happen when people are screwed out of ownership, hopefully if it's really a band, it's even.
Yeah, that's why I was so surprised when Ryan asked for 51% of Scary Pocket.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, but I
was
didn't
like,
want to.
No,
Yeah.
Jack, I asked for 1%.
50
You
times.
thought I said 51?
I want to see if we can get to the bottom of like how this exploded. Like it
I
did.
was there in real time. Though.
Yeah.
I was
Do you
actually
remember when it
born.
came
I
out?
was a borderline juvenile delinquent watching MTV that was the only way you would find out new music. So this would come on. There'd be a countdown it might have been every day. Certainly on the weekend, we would watch it obsessively.
The MTV Top 20 Video Countdown.
And when this appeared, it was like you knew something was changing. So this is like 88, 87, something like that. So I had just gotten a bass in 85. So I was studying like, to be a professional back then, okay, we need hair, we need tight clothes.
Yeah, you were listening to it like this for the first time. With the note
I was buying VHS of, Kiss, Bon Jovi, all the bands. Like, what do they do? Motley Crue. So when these guys came out, we all took notice.
Wow.
In real time. And it was like songwriting. You know when there's a songwriting shift in music, you felt it like when they're using a certain rhythmic device or the way melodies have changed, like the Bieber melody. Is not anything like a Bobby Brown melody from 1998. Even though they both would exist in modern R&B,
right?
This was kind of one of those things where like, hey, things are changing from these giant anthemic choruses to then what becomes with Pearl Jam and Nirvana. This is that gap where you're like, this is different. So from that perspective,
what great context.
There was no joke here. This was not a joke. This was like, these guys are doing it differently. These guys are kind of dirtier. They're not as cleaned up as the Slicko, Warrant, Poison. Where everybody looked, picture perfect. They could be, dress them up and they'd be going to your latest prom, with the hair. These guys, it was a little edgier.
Yes, makes you cry almost.
I mean, but it gets up there. It's like as you're going up, imagine, and this is what's happening to your vocal cords. You're going up and you're squeezing. Like
you had to go.
You had
vocally.
to be up there. Listen to the stuff of the era, which is why none of those bands can go and play live today and sound anything like themselves, because all the singers, by the time they reach 40, 50, like it's not there.
They can't
But
hit those
when they're
notes
23, they're like, this is what Back in Black, biggest selling record probably ever until this one in terms of rock records. So it's like, what do we have to do? If a guy plays D, she got a smile that sees me. You start there.
Yeah.
So what? Nowhere to go but up, man.
Yeah.
You gonna
That's
go
right.
lower for the chorus?